Hello, Michael Bull here with the Commercial Real Estate Show. We're in Boston at DisruptCRE, where technology, capital, and commercial real estate unite. And we just had a social media session here in the big room, and this is our overtime session. And we have two of the participants. And if you will, introduce yourself and tell us your favorite movie.
Okay. Bonnie Burgett, and I am a co-founder of Sourced Capital, and we're a private equity real estate firm that raises our equity capital on the internet. And all of our deals are vetted through our proprietary algorithm. And my favorite movie is Steel Magnolias.
It's what?
Steel Magnolias
all
with
right,
Julia Roberts.
Great. My name is Kevin Guy. I'm the co-founder of Real Liquidity. We are a second market platform for trading crowdfunded shares, and my favorite movie it's got to be Schindler's List.
Nice. And we're talking about crowdfunding for commercial real estate, and DisruptCRE is a great name for crowdfunding commercial real estate because it's new, right, to be able to go online and advertise for investors. So what are some of the challenges that you're seeing right now in crowdfunding for commercial real estate?
Sure, go for it. I'll go first. Sure. I mean, one of the major challenges for crowdfunding at this juncture, and to take it really to the next level, is going to be liquidity and how people get their money out of deals. It's great that, you know, the deal flow is there and people are interested in investing, but really one of the main challenges is creating that liquidity so that they can get out of some of these investments.
Well, that's an interesting comment because I've been on several panels and had some shows on crowdfunding on my show, and one of the questions I ask these crowdfunding portals is, look, what about liquidity? What about when one of these unsophisticated investors says, you know what, I want to buy a new Mustang and I want my money back, and then all of a sudden you've got some disruption there, right? So your product will be a place that folks can come in if they want to get out of a share before the property is sold or some other liquidity event happens, that they can sell that portion of the deal?
That's correct. I mean, depending on some of these deals in crowdfunding that are being written up are written in such a manner that liquidity is very, very difficult. The first thing that's going to have to change is the way that some of these deals are written up. And at that point, what we're doing is we're creating a marketplace where people can essentially buy and sell shares of crowdfunded projects.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I think that was one of the big things that will help crowdfunding, because if you think about it, you know, you can invest in the stock market online, but it's liquid, right? So if you can invest in commercial real estate online and there's a way to create liquidity, well, a lot of people would be interested, right? If you can go in and out. Absolutely,
and it's a great marketing tool for the crowdfunding portals and the originators because they're offering something to people that they understand. I mean, if somebody invests $5,000 or $10,000 into a project and all of a sudden they need that money out because their kid's going to college, not that that might be the case, but if that happens, how do they get their money out? Where do they go? What kind of marketplace is there for them to find liquidity?
And it would seem to be a lot easier to raise capital when you're adding that liquidity portion. So I think you would want your paperwork to allow that, right?
I think it would be very difficult if IBM came out and said, listen, you can buy a share of our company, you just can't sell it for 8 years.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do is give that $15 trillion asset class, give it some liquidity. It's one of the last big investment pillars out there that does not have that kind of liquidity. It's one of the largest asset classes on the planet.
Hey, once you're in, you're in. Oh, forget about it. You're in a family. You can't get out, are you? So what are some of the other challenges that you see with crowdfunding for commercial real estate today, Ron?
Sure. Well, you guys are kind of dancing around it. And instead, you're opening up a market to retail investors that don't necessarily understand the market. And right now, they're really focused on yield and cash on cash. And it's a big buzzword and a selling point. But I think this kind of goes back to creating liquidity options questions for people is a lot of the deals that are being placed out there, I think they've got great in-place cash on cash, but not necessarily a great exit strategy. And I think, when we look at a deal, I'm not only looking at in-place metrics today, but what's going to happen further down the road. And if there is a road bump and people want out, they don't have an option because it's an illiquid asset. But so I think one of the big challenges in the crowdfunding space right now is going to be outrighting. I predict there's going to be a little bit of a shakeout with some bad deals in the next 3 to 5 years, and people thinking that the deal is going to be sold for a certain profit and they're going to realize a certain return, and it's not going to happen. And I think it's going to taint the word crowdfunding a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, that's a good point. If there's some problems with some of these sponsors, it could be an issue for the crowdfunding in general, but I guess we just got to get the word out to investors, check out the deal, check out the sponsor, know what you're investing in. Just because you're online and maybe you're investing 20 grand is all you're investing, you still need to check it out.
Yeah, and my biggest thing is read the documents. I mean, listen, it's not fun to read.
Read the documents?
I know, but I just cringe when people don't read legal documents, and I don't enjoy it. But it kind of goes back to the liquidity. You would know that what the provisions are around that. You know what rights you have as an investor, what rights you don't have, and in most cases right now, you don't have rights as an investor. Unlike other securities where you have voting rights and approval rights, maybe depending on the structure. But I think right now, we touched on it in the panel. The legal documents are all over the board, depending on what your business model is, who's originating the deal, all that stuff. So I just urge retail investors to do their due diligence.
I mean, reading the paperwork, who wants to do that? I didn't read the prenup, and I didn't know that she'd get the dog, right? I didn't even know. So now here I am.
You'll read it next time.
No, honey, I'm just kidding. So what would be a tip that you would leave our listeners with as a final question related to crowdfunding? And the tip could be for an investor or maybe for a sponsor or for someone else.
Well, I think just like any investment, you got to do your homework. I think you have to do the researching on the crowdfunding portals. I think you have to, like Bonnie was saying, you have to read the legal documents. You have to understand what this investment means. So, putting in $5,000 or 30 grand or whatever the number is going to be, make sure you know what the provisions are in that document so you understand exactly what you can and cannot do as a stakeholder in that project. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I gave my tip to read the documents, but I think my other tip would be...
No, we stole it.
Yeah.
I piggybacked off of Bonnie on that one.
You go online and we're certainly doing this with our platform. You want your website to look good, and you want it to highlight the numbers that look good. And I think it looks glossy and pretty on the up front, but don't get swayed by just one cash on cash number. Really think about the long-term hold. Going back to the adage, location. Is it in the middle of nowhere or is it in a prime location? And is the yield that you're getting appropriate for that and the risks associated with it?
Yeah, and just to add to that, I think you got to look at this kind of investment like you would anything else. You'd have to look at the fundamentals, like Bonnie was saying. You'd have to look at the location of the property. And sort of treat it like a stock. I mean, is this an area that's going to have growth potential in the future? Do you see appreciation of the asset? Do you see stability in the tenants? And so you have to make those sort of assessments on a property just the same way you would any other type of investment.
So I think what you're saying is you should listen to the Commercial Real Estate Show every week so you kind of know what's going on in the marketplace, right? Exactly. I think another tip I would provide is for sponsors to consider crowdfunding. I mean, I think some of them are afraid of it or don't know enough about it yet, and I think it's going to be a big way to put more capital into the real estate market and get some of these properties moving. I think it could be good for the business overall.
Yeah, I mean, we were talking earlier about, this is E-Trade and Ameritrade, when they started, 15, 20 years ago.
Exactly.
And it's a little bit, it's the Wild West right now. It's a little bit scary for people that, I mean, if you don't need the capital, why would you consider it? But I think using the internet to raise capital, to process your documents electronically, to do investor reporting, I mean, it's not going away. So I think it's not. You got to look at the forefront and stay on top of it. Even if your current model is working for you, I mean, there's a lot of advantages to technology, and you shouldn't be afraid to use it.
That's a good point. I was talking to a sponsor this past Saturday who's working on a transaction that he can do on his own, and I suggested he use crowdfunding. And this is a home run deal. I mean, you do a couple home run deals, and all of a sudden you got a following. So maybe
Definitely.
You're doing more transactions, and you're creating more net worth and more cash flow because you're doing more deals, right?
Yeah, and I also, we had conversations with people that have used their own equity, for 20 years, and they're like, well, why would I want to do this? But then, they kind of step back and say, well, I'm 10 years away from retiring, maybe 5 years, and I want to start pulling my equity out and using other people's equity. And these are still good deals, but it's high risk. I mean, real estate can be risky, especially if you're doing development deals, and it's a way to mitigate your own personal risk.
Are you seeing development deals get done by crowdfunding yet?
No, not really.
Yeah,
I mean, there's some.
There's a few development deals out there, but
they already have a tenant in place kind of deals.
Well, no,
spec?
I think the jury's still out. I mean, some of the projects that I've seen are still under construction. So these are very high risk investments, on the crowdfunding side, but with high risk comes high reward. These aren't, this isn't like sticking your money in the bank and getting 0.5% interest. I mean, some of these deals will push out a 10, 12, 15% yield. On the debt side and equity, there's some upside. So, I mean, it's the same old adage, risk little, win little, but you got to do your due diligence on these deals.
Right.
Yeah, and it sounds like, we're telling investors over and over again to do their homework. Sponsors, check it out and get involved. And there's some miscommunication out there. They're not getting it. So you'll know my favorite movie. Here's a line from the movie. It's for these guys. What we have here is a failure to communicate. Cool hand, Luke. Thank you for joining us out on the exit panel here. We appreciate it.
Sure,
Thanks for having us.
If you'd like more information from anyone on the panel, we'll have all their information at commercialrealestateshow.com. The Commercial Real Estate Show is brought to you by Bull Realty Commercial Brokerage, a great place to do business. Visit bullrealty.com. RealNex, a comprehensive suite of powerful commercial real estate tools at an incredibly low price. Visit realnex.com. That's RealNex. Sozo Web Hosting and Cloud Solutions. Secure, reliable, and worry-free. Visit sozo.com. That's SOZO.com. FIU, Florida International University. Earn your master's in real estate online in as little as 10 months. Visit FIUonline.com. And by France Media, providing exposure to the world of commercial real estate. Visit francemediainc.com. For more information on these great companies or for additional podcasts, videos, or blogs, visit CREshow.com.